Dr. Jane Goodall, it's an honor and privilege to greet you at 2460, our program. You dreamed your life at a very early age, and at 91 years old now, you're still living your dream. What keeps you going?
What keeps me going is the state of the world and concern for the future of our children, grandchildren, concern for the future of the planet, concern for the future of life on Earth as we know it. And, you know, we're surrounded by pretty dark times right now. And a lot of people say, well, why don't you just give up? You can't do anything. But, you know, I'm an obstinate kind of person, and I'm not going to give up. And the more people come up ahead with war and destruction of the forests, the more I'm determined to do anything I can.
I'll quote you, if I may. What you do make a difference, and you have to decide what difference you wanted to do. And for you, it goes back to your childhood.
Well, yes, I was born loving animals, and there was no television when I was growing up, hadn't been invented. And so I learned from being out in nature and then from books. And I was 10 years old when I discovered a little book, very cheap edition of Tarzan of the Apes. Well, I'd never heard of Tarzan, no television. So I just had saved up enough pocket money to buy it. This was during World War II. And I read it from cover to cover. And of course, I fell passionately in love with this glorious Lord of the Jungle. And he went and married the wrong Jane.
But you took your revenge for more than 60 years. You were the Jane of the jungle, of the forest. What made you want to live with animals alone in the forest in difficult conditions? What made you want to live in you dreamed of living in Africa at that young age?
That was because of Tarzan.
Really?
Yes, the Tarzan book.
Yeah.
And animals I'd always loved. And so, you know, I wanted to live in the wild like Tarzan. And I thought the Jane he married was a real wimp.
Well, you replaced that Jane, for sure. And you found love in your way too, in the jungle. And
I was lucky I had a really supportive mother.
Yes.
And that made all the difference, because when I announced at 10 what I wanted to do, everybody laughed at me. Jane, try and dream about something you can achieve. Forget this nonsense about Africa. It's far away, you don't have money, which is true. We had very little money. And you're just a girl. But not my mother. She said, if you really want to do this, you have to work really hard, take advantage of every opportunity. And if you don't give up, I'm sure you'll find a way.
You found that way with Dr. Leakey, a paleontologist, who believed in you, believed, although you were not a scientist, and you to document the life of not every animals, but the chimpanzee. What made you accept that mission, first mission?
Because it was my dream being offered to me on a plate. I mean, you know, it's not easy without a degree and being a female. How was I going to get into the wild? And then fortunately, somebody said, if you're interested in animals, you should meet Louis Leakey. And he decided I was the person he'd been looking for, mainly because he let me go with one of his digs. You know, he searched for fossils. And in the evening, after working all day looking for fossils, I was allowed to walk out on the Serengeti plains, and I met a lion. A lion, very close. And I think he was a young, fully grown male. And he was just standing looking, his tail gently waving. And so I walked up onto the plain from the gorge, and Leakey said I did just the right thing. That's when he asked me if I were prepared to go and study chimps.
All those years you fulfilled your dream? Yes.
Yep.
You made extraordinary discoveries. When we look at your discoveries, people think of revolution, of how we change our relationship with animals. Tell us about your main discovery.
Okay, well, you see, I was really lucky because I was the first person to study them in the wild. So obviously, things I discovered were unique. And the one that made the biggest difference was seeing a chimpanzee named David Greybeard by me using and making tools to fish for termites from their underground nest. And at that time, Western science believed only humans used and made tools. And they believed that, you know, we were not part of the animal kingdom. We were separate. But because the chimps are so genetically like us and behaviorally like us, eventually they had to realize we are actually part of the animal kingdom. And once you admit that, and once you admit that not only chimps but other animals too have personalities, minds and emotions, then that makes us think differently, or it should do, about how we treat animals.
But you made us understand how chimpanzees are so much like us in many ways.
Yes, I thought they were like us but nicer until I saw them. They, like us, have a dark, aggressive side. They're capable of killing and a kind of primitive war. And one community of about 50 individuals with 10 adult males annihilated the neighboring smaller community, males and females, and took over the territory.
One of your great achievements too is to allow, through the National Geographic, to document. We have films, we have pictures. We see through those documents what you saw, what you lived. It must have been a lot of patience to witness that.
Well, certainly it took patience.
Many years.
But when I was a little girl, if you want to watch animals, you have to have patience. And I was curious, where's the hole on a hen big enough for an egg to come out? I couldn't see a hole like that, so I hid in a hen house, apparently for about 4 hours. And my mother was about to call the police, and she sees this excited little girl rushing towards the house. Instead of getting angry, how dare you go off without telling us, don't you know how worried we've been? All that scientific curiosity would have been killed. And I might not have done what I've done. So yes, patience. Took 4 months at Gombe before the chimps stopped running away. 4 whole months.
After having struggled, crawled through the undergrowth, climbed up to the peak and down again and searched, and been rewarded, yes, by seeing chimps, but chimps that ran away every time I went up to them, to have a chimpanzee just sit there and watch me and know that I was there and not mind, that was a very, very wonderful moment.
We see pictures of you just beside them, just looking at them, but we also see pictures like one of the millions of pictures that you're probably the most photographed person in the world, at least one of the most renowned person in the world for all you did. I'll show this picture, which is very beautiful. What this reminds you?
This is in the 2nd year of the study, when the chimps had begun to accept me. And I'd given them names, which was, according to science, all wrong. Oh, yes. This is the little 5 months old he was, Flo's son, Flint. Yes. And it was a very magic moment. Very magic moment.
How
See
do you
those
feel,
big wide eyes looking.
How do you feel looking at those pictures?
I feel great nostalgia for those days that are long gone. I knew every chimpanzee, I knew their personality. I could sit among them. And I followed this one, his development from birth all the way up to his death when he was 8 years old, very young.
Dying of depression because he lost his mother.
Yes.
It looks a lot like us. No, is it one of the resemblance between chimpanzee and us?
Well, they, like us, they can be happy, sad, they can be angry, they can be frustrated, and they can be depressed, and they can grieve. He grieved.
Yes. You mentioned giving them names, and scientists didn't agree with you.
No, I should have numbered them.
Yeah, but that's part of your revolution.
Yeah, yeah. The whole thing. Science perceived animals as mere objects. They're beings. And it's not just chimpanzees who have personality, mind and emotion. so too are dogs. I was taught this by my dog when I was a child.
But you also said that dogs were your favorite animal.
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, chimps are too human.
Oh yeah, chimps are too human because they can be cruel and brutal.
Yeah.
They're not all.
We're worse than them because we can deliberately plan. You and I could sit here and we could plan to torture somebody in Gaza. That makes us evil. Not that you and I would.
Because if we are that intelligent, we wouldn't do it. But you make a difference between intelligence and intellect, right? What is the difference you make?
Well, the intellect is so well developed in us. I mean, we can design rockets that go to the moon and Mars. We can design the internet. Perhaps unfortunately, but anyway, we've designed also AI. Because of this kind of intelligence, and because we have language, we can sit and make plans for the distant future. We can bring people with different backgrounds to discuss a problem and try and find a solution. Chimpanzees and other animals can't do that, although they're way more intelligent than we used to think. So we've got this intellect, but if we were intelligent, we wouldn't be destroying our only planet.
That's what we're doing every day. And more now than ever, is there a backlash now from governments, from industries, from lobbies, not to protect the planet? Because this is your mission since 1980.
The biggest backlash is from the planet herself. With the
She's telling us that we're wrong.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you know, the heating planet leading to climate change, changes in weather patterns, more hurricanes, more droughts, more heat waves, more floods. And so nature is telling us, stop, stop, stop.
Are you discouraged when you see those of mankind, when they can do war, tolerate famine, seeing millions of children dying of malnutrition?
I'm so upset by that sometimes I can't sleep.
Really? Oh.
And you know, it's going on in Gaza, it's going on in Sudan as well. There's horrors going on in Ukraine. And it's not only the victim country, it's the people on the other side, they're suffering too. You know, not all the Russians want to invade Ukraine. Not all the Israelis want to attack Gaza. So it's causing not only terrible human suffering, terrible damage to the environment. The modern machinery of warfare is emitting hundreds and thousands of tons of CO2, devastating huge areas of land.
Do you have the chance sometimes to meet with the leaders who declare war, who tolerate famines?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I sometimes meet the leaders, and you can't really tell. When you meet a politician, they may agree with you when you're there, but it doesn't mean they agree with you at all. But some do. There is a change. There are politicians who are really trying, and there are leaders of big business also who are really trying to do things in a more sustainable way.
Last year, you made a tour around many countries saying to people, vote for the planet. That's your main action now, worried about.
I think my main purpose now is to give people hope that we will come out the other side, yes, if we get together now. Because if we lose hope, we become apathetic. What's the point? Why should I bother if it's no good? And if that happens to more and more people, and it's beginning to, then we're doomed. That's the end.
Going back to the chimpanzees, I guess you're worried about the impact of those problems on the planet, on them. They are a species in danger.
Yeah, they're one of the species because their forests are being destroyed. And climate change, you know, it means that fruits ripen at different times, and they had a rhythm. Long range, short range, dry season. Now it's just all muddled up. It rains in the dry season, it's dry in the wet season. The fruits and the insects and the birds are all confused. And in addition to that, there's the illegal wildlife trade. Mother chimps are shot to steal their babies, to sell them, particularly to the Middle East and Asia.
Why is that so?
Well, the local people want to make money, so they shoot the mother, take the baby, and sell them. And people want to buy them as pets or for entertainment. It used to be medical research, but thank goodness that stopped.
I've read that more than 70% of the great ape population has declined in the last 50 years. While you were trying to understand them, people beside you in different countries were destroying them.
Well, you know, when I realized that chimpanzee numbers were dropping, I thought by that time, 1986, there were 6 other scientists studying chimps in different parts of Africa. So I got some money to visit those places to find out what's happening to the chimps. And it's what I've said, they were being shot, their forests were going. But I also found that the people living in and around the forests, they were suffering, living in poverty, lack of health, education, facilities, and they were cutting down the forest. The local people were cutting down the forest to make some money from charcoal, timber, or more land to grow food. And so that's when the Jane Goodall Institute began our program to try and alleviate poverty, to help people find a way of making a living without destroying the environment.
That's how we can see that it's all connected. Humankind, the survival of the humans connected to the environment, the animals, the nature.
Yeah, we both need the environment. And once the people begin to rise out of poverty, then they realize saving the environment isn't just for wildlife, it's for their future, for their survival. And that's, you know, the Jane Goodall Institute in Canada is helping our Africa programs.
And you also founded in 1991, I guess, Shoots and Roots, an organization where group children to pursue your legacy, I guess.
Yes, that was back in the middle 80s. Already, back in the mid-80s, children were losing hope. I found them all around the world as I was traveling. They were angry, or they were depressed, or they just didn't care. And when I asked them why, we've spoilt their future, and there's nothing they can do about it. So we have spoiled their future, but there is something they can do about it. And so in our Roots and Shoots program, they choose projects to make the world a better place for people, for animals, for the environment, with the main message, every single one of us makes an impact every single day, and we can choose what sort of impact we make. So that program has members from tiny children, university, everything in between, and it's now in 76 countries.
You've been recognized around the world. You have inspired millions of people and millions of children in particular. Is this your main legacy, do you believe?
Well, Roots and Shoots, I hope, will be a main legacy, but also this different attitude to animals, that we're part of the animal kingdom, and they, like us, have emotions.
You made a conference not so far ago at UNESCO. You give your message to the world. Do you feel you are well heard?
All I can say is that after every lecture, and I wouldn't do it otherwise, people come up and say, I had lost hope, I'd given up, but now I promise I'll do my bit. And they write me that. And particularly young women, but not only, write or speak and say, you taught me because you did it, I can do it too. I do have hope. If we give nature a chance, it will come back and again make beautiful places we've totally destroyed. If you fly over Gombe today, no more bare hills. The trees have come or are coming back, and with them the various animals, birds, insects, and so on.
You came into this room with a little chimpanzee, but
Well, actually,
you always have one with you.
it's always this one. He's 35 years old.
Oh.
He's called Mr. H. He was given to me by a man called Gary Horn, who lost his eyesight when he was 21 in the US Marines. He thought he was giving me a stuffed chimpanzee for my birthday, but I made him hold the tail. Gary, chimps don't have tails.
Oh.
So
So what is it?
it's some kind of monkey, I don't know, nothing. Just, and he said, never mind, take him where you go, and you know my spirit's with you. This man has taught himself to paint. He goes skydiving. He talks to children, and he decided he wanted to be a magician. And he does shows for children, and they don't know he's blind. And at the end, he'll tell them and say, you know, something may go wrong in your life. We never know, but if it does, don't give up. There's always a way forward. He illustrates one of my reasons for hope, which is the indomitable human spirit.
Did he replace the one your father gave you when you were at...
Oh, that was a chimpanzee.
Yes.
And,
At 1 year old, your father gave you a chimpanzee.
Well, it was because it was all the big rage in England. I mean, my father played really no part in my life because the war started, he joined up, and I was just nearly 5, and then my parents divorced. People think it was that chimpanzee Jubilee who made me study chimps.
No, it's Tarzan.
No.
You wanted to be the real Jane.
No, not even Tarzan, it was Louis Leakey.
Yeah, sure.
The dream was to study any animal in the bush.
What would be the brightest moment in your life?
Well, I think after I got my PhD at Cambridge, and I went back to Gombe, and I had my little son with me. He was just a baby, and I could spend hours out in the forest by myself, understand all the, you know, the amazing ecosystem, how every plant and animal has a role to play, and learning more about the chimps. But it was wonderful, wonderful days.
Mm-hmm. One of the darkest hour or moment?
Pretty dark right now, reading some of the things that are happening. It was a very dark time when my second husband died. He died of a very painful cancer. It was awful. Those are probably the worst times.
But you have great hope.
I have to have hope.
And one thing that I didn't ask you until this moment is that also you discovered the language of the chimpanzee. And
well, the communication.
Communication.
Different, yeah.
But for you, you use that in different conferences, right?
Well,
it's important.
I demonstrate, like, if I'm having a tense meeting with, say, a male politician, you know.
A dominant male politician.
Yeah, so I say, would you like to know how a female chimp greets a dominant male? So then I act out the female is nervous and she crouches and she makes a submissive, and then, you know, I tell the man, I say, now you've got to stand there looking important and big and swaggery, but then actually you actually like the female, so you pat her on the head and she embraces you, and they love it.
For sure.
They love it. And also, I also talk about male chimpanzees competing for dominance, standing upright, hair bristling, swaggering, shaking a fist. And I say to the audience, doesn't this remind you of some human male politicians?
Also.
They laugh.
Do you go back to Gombe once in a while, right?
Twice a year.
Yeah. How does it feel? How are things going there?
No, I used to go out, but, you know, I am 91 now.
But you see the chimp when you go back?
If they come down, yes. So last year, the only one I remember, because all the others have died now, and she actually came to the house and took me into the forest.
Oh, yeah. Must have been a very emotional moment.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Because there is an emotional moment is when you Wunda gets free.
That's a sanctuary for orphan chimps whose mothers have been shot. And it was the first day I met her, and she had nearly died, but then now she's healthy. She's going to be released onto this beautiful island, almost like being in the wild. And when she comes out of the traveling cage onto the island, she comes and gives me this, not normal, a long, long embrace while she's looking around. And you know, she should have been doing that with the person who saved her life, Rebecca. And she does go and present to her, but everybody was amazed.
Even if Wanda didn't know you, she probably felt your love for them and everything you did for them, and that you still continue to do. What do you want us to remember about you?
About me?
Yeah.
That I never gave up.
You're very convincing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Again, it's a great privilege.
Lovely talking to you.
And long life to you, still. We'll meet again when you're 100, okay?
Okay.
That's an appointment.
Well, my nicest birthday present when I was 90 was going to a beach. It was a big surprise. I met 90 dogs. 90 dogs. The only reason I want to live to be 100 is to have 100 dogs to greet me.
Well, you made me regret that I didn't bring along my 2 dogs.
You should have.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.